May 25th, 1977 saw the release of George Lucas's Star Wars, which quickly became a surprise blockbuster hit. Often regarded as one of the greatest and most influential movies ever made, it helped change the way movies were made and captured the imagination of a generation. Star Wars quickly became a pop culture phenomenon. Over the course of this series, I will be joined by a number of Star Wars fans from across YouTube and the toy collecting community, as we take a look back at their earliest memories of Star Wars and find out what made Star Wars great. Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here, and welcome to the channel. And welcome to episode 13 of What Made Star Wars Great, the series where I get to chat to like-minded Star Wars fans from the YouTube and toy collecting communities and take a look back at their earliest memories of Star Wars, and also to basically find out what made Star Wars great. Joining me this week is Brad, also known as Rocket City Sith. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, doing great, Stu. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Thank you very much. And I've got to say, delighted to finally get you on. You were supposed to be on a few weeks ago, but it didn't happen for certain reasons. We won't go into that. Too much stress thinking about it. But no, I'm delighted you're here, mate. And thank you so much for being part of the series.
Well, I'm glad to be here. It gave me enough time to watch everybody else and see what everybody else's responses was. So here I am.
Okay. Well, you'll know then the reason I'm doing this is because there's a massive divide within the Star Wars community. There has been for some time, but it just seems of recent times that division has been getting like bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's been a lot of negativity around Star Wars. I just wanted to, hear your thoughts on that negativity. Is it just at all?
So, listening to everybody over the last few weeks, and I'm trying to look at it in different ways, okay?
Yeah.
So it's not pointed at any one person, but I'm trying to let's take us back to 1978 and we're the age we are now.
Yeah.
And we've seen Star Wars and we're just pumped and hyped.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. So but then let's say they start doing interviews and then you hear this Harrison Ford person doesn't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
You know, the director for the next Star Wars film doesn't want to, the director doesn't want to do the next film. They don't know how you can
Yeah.
talk Star Wars. We have to look at it from a woke way of looking at things back then, and we would be fussing about things that we wouldn't imagine saying something bad about. It's like, well, get Harrison Ford off of here. If he doesn't want to play Han Solo, let him go play Indiana Jones, when he was the biggest thing that come out of Star Wars, So
Absolutely.
I'm trying to look at it that way because I love Star Wars no matter what. I'm enthused to have content of some sort. Uh, does it mean that I'm happy with what they come out with? Not necessarily, but I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. It was viewing entertainment. But at the same time, you just got to, all this background noise, everything that we see online now that we have visibility to, you know, you just sort of got to turn your head to it and say, am I going to let this ruin the experience, or am I going to really set on what they said and let it ruin it for me? And I'm not going to let that happen.
Well, no, I mean, look, that is absolutely fair enough. I mean, you go back to when Star Wars was being filmed before the release. I mean, the amount of issues that they had with that movie. Do you think, with the way things are these days with social media, the expectations, the not just the expectations of the fans, because this was a new entity, we didn't know anything about Star Wars, but with all the leaks and stuff like that that you get these days, do you think Star Wars would ever have got off the ground?
I think it would have got off the ground, but I think it would have
Yeah.
lost a lot of its flair, its drama. I mean, we'd already know that Luke was the son of Vader before the movie come out. Who wants to know that stuff? I remember there was a movie. It wasn't Star Wars. It was actually Star Trek, First
Yeah.
Contact, the Borg. and I read a leak. Supposedly, this was early days of the internet, so I read it and I go, "Well, that sounds good, but that won't happen." And then you go into the theater, and it was you just read the blow by blow account of what was happening in the movie, and it took it away from you. It took that
Yeah,
excitement from you. So
yeah.
I think this the media to some extent hurts a movie these days, or a TV series. I think it really
Mm.
does. It takes a
I
lot
mean,
out.
I don't. I think a lot. You know, back in the day, I mean, there's a lot of secrecy and stuff like that. Like you say, we didn't have the internet, and we didn't have mobile phones either back then. So a lot of the times, you're getting people who are actually working on those sets and part of that production that are taking little sneaky photos, and do you know what I mean? And it's getting leaked that way. So I mean, that's not that hasn't helped. Social media hasn't helped, but I don't know. I just think with the original trilogy. I mean, did you say that there was you read something that Luke was Vader's son?
No, 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 no.
Oh,
I was too young. But if it was like that
oh
today,
right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
or today was like that then it would we would know everything about the movie before we
Well,
went.
we would, and I mean, we're getting to that a bit later on, but I, we know that Irving Kershner initially
Yeah,
didn't want to do the Empire Strikes Back or Star Wars Part Two as it was
right.
back then because of Star Wars and it was so big and it was such a success. And his thinking was, how do we top that? How can we make that better? And it was only down to his agent that said, "Are you crazy? You do this."
Right.
So he did, and I thought he did a great job. Because we've said before as well that George Lucas, as good a storyteller as he is, he wasn't the greatest director. And look, listen, he was under a lot of pressure. He put himself under a lot of pressure with that original Star Wars movie. So that's why he didn't want to do or direct Empire Strikes Back. But I thought Kirshen did a great job. And with Han Solo, Harrison Ford, we kind of knew that he didn't want to return for Return of the Jedi, but it was George Lucas, and George Lucas got what he wanted. So do you think there would have been a big fuss made of that this day and age? Then a director saying that he didn't want to direct a sequel, an actor saying that he didn't want to be in the next movie.
I don't know. I mean, it's like we've got. It's so hard to keep up with all the rumor mill of the upcoming possible Star Wars projects, from
Yeah,
the Ray project to the Mando project to whatever, and then you hear that a director has dropped out of doing it, and I don't know what the pretense is behind all that. To me, if I had a chance to have any part in Star Wars, sign me up. I want to be a part of it.
yeah, yeah, for sure,
I
for
mean,
sure.
can you imagine having that on your resume? Hey, I directed a Star Wars. It's like, which one
Yeah.
was it? We won't talk about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But look, listen, so you've got all those issues that were plaguing Star Wars back then, back in the day, and we've had different films come out over the years, and we've had TV series, we've had to have reshoots and getting rid of directors and getting people in due to artistic differences. So it's not like a new thing, is it? That Star Wars has struggled in some extent
Oh,
to, with the directors or with like I say, artistic um licensing and direction and why is it now then it's such a big deal? Is it because of social media?
so once again, I'm trying to look at this in a bunch of different ways, and I know
Yeah,
you're going to bring up some of this a little later, but I'll try not to get too deep into it. Uh, I think media, and I think us long term Star Wars people are hurting it in some capacity, and then I'll tell you why. It's like right now, Skeleton Crew to me, I'm at an impasse with collecting on like on TVC,
yeah,
but for Hot Toys or other things, I'm really into it. But I have got a bad feeling if Skeleton Crew does not appeal to our younger generation, we're going to lose the younger generation to Star Wars. We're going to have the very few that are there hanging in with us, and
Yeah.
it's going to die with us, the people that grew up with it, and that scares me to death because I love Star Wars, I do, and I
Mm.
want to keep collecting. But if I see that something I've invested a lot of money in is fixing to go flat, then it's time to jump ship before my ship sinks. So I
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I totally agree with what you're saying there, and we know already that the Skeleton Crew is aimed at a younger generation. And
right.
look, I don't have any issue with that. We do need to get the younger generation in, but the thing is, and this has been brought up before as well in previous episodes, and I just want to get your thought on it. Star Wars. Well, I'll ask you the question. I'll ask you it now. Do you think then that Star Wars has the same impact on today's generation as what it did with us?
I'm gonna say probably not,
Yeah.
simply because I forget who said it, and I've always said it myself, but somebody said Star Wars was lightning in a bottle.
Yep.
It redefined way movies were made for
Yep.
a half a century, and re-envisioned the way that a movie could be made, and it recaptured our imagination. That
Absolutely. It did.
that that to me was from drawing some futuristic stuff that just don't make sense to playing with toys and having this imagination of something greater than where we're at and what we have in front of us. Uh, and the way that the movies were filmed, I mean, you could get this little bottle right here and put a bunch of, I forget what they call it, on it, gribblies or whatever,
Greeblies.
and make
Greeblies.
it
Yeah.
look like a ship and put it on
Yeah.
TV. And it's like, look at that. There's the Millennium Falcon, you know, not
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
what it looks like,
Absolutely.
but but now if you do that, it's we're like so desensitized with stuff. We've gone through a lot of different progress in uh movie magic, just so to say. I
Yeah.
mean, like we saw our ugly phase of Star Wars when we did nothing but green screen and computer animation. I would have to admit, even myself, it was almost like you're watching Roger Rabbit with Ewan McGregor and Liam
Yeah.
Neeson and all them, and and then it got a little better, and then it got awesome with other movies before it got good for Star Wars, and then we got to the sequel trilogy. Had to think how to say that, and then it seems like they had mastered that part of it. But there's going
Yeah.
to be something else that comes along that's going to be like, oh, that could have been better. But at the time, it might be capturing our imagination and really going with it. It's like, I like the original Star Wars, and when they did the special edition, there was a few things I really hated in it, but there
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
lot that I did like. I liked the cleaned up space battles, the cleaned up Hoth battle, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Now, listening to Sauce Noodles and a new character with the Max Rebo band sing, no, I didn't care for that. And
We'll hit those special editions now. So, would you have been happy just to keep the original Star Wars how they were, the three films, the original films of how they were, not put any added scenes in, but just clean the film up like they did with Empire Strikes Back? Because by the time um, the special editions were released, technology had advanced with how films were made. CGI had come into effect thanks to Jurassic Park, and just those space battles that you mentioned, I feel that they did a great job cleaning them up in episode A New Hope and in Empire Strikes Back. But it felt like they didn't really do too much cleaning up in Return of the Jedi because you can still see some, you know,
yeah,
not matte paintings. What is it? Blocking that they did when they
yeah.
did them, the shoots and stuff like that.
I mean, I would be totally happy with the original, of course.
Yeah,
I mean, I mean, because we didn't know what we were missing, and we were fine with what we wasn't missing. I mean, let's admit it. Those original episodes were that's Star Wars to us. That's the foundation right there.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
something to it was like eroding it a little bit, doing something it shouldn't have. Uh, I mean, I get it. Lucas had a vision. He wanted wilder, crazier aliens. He wanted
Yeah.
some things, but some things are just best left alone. He did it the first time. He did it right the first
He
time.
yeah, he did. He did, unbeknownst to him, because it was a huge success. And I think if that scene hadn't have quite played out right and it would have been looked awful, then I think you would have known about it. It wouldn't have got the, the accolades that it did. But you saying he wasn't happy with that, he had the chance to, you know, do Return of the Jedi, which he never thought he was going to get to do. So he had the aliens there, all the different species there. So surely that should have, you know, made him feel a little bit better,
Scratch the
and
itch
leave well
for him.
alone with
Yeah,
the original Star Wars.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, he had different things he wanted to do, like with Jabba the Hutt from the
Yeah,
beginning. He even went as far as filming the scene, but that comedic twist to it, that with Han stepping over
yeah, I
his
know.
hill and
It's not
everything,
good. It's not good.
we didn't need that.
We didn't. Well, look, and you saying that, it's interesting you say that, because Han had the same conversation with Jabba that he had about 5 minutes earlier with Greedo. So
Yep,
why have that conversation again? I
exactly.
don't think it was needed. And I think if Jabba would have stayed as a human being, then yeah, I think it would have worked. It wouldn't have been a problem, but it didn't. And I guess for the time the CGI was okay, but then like you say, walking around the back, and it didn't look right. And I even cringed. I was like, oh, what have you done?
But
And
the other thing too, for the original versus the special edition, that mystery of who and what Jabba the Hutt looked like
yeah,
reached an opus when we got to Return of the Jedi and finally saw who
yeah,
this villain was, and I like
awesome.
that. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just like Boba Fett. We didn't know much about him, but we knew you didn't mess with him until a few decades later. Then
yeah,
we
yeah.
won't talk about that, but uh, you know, sometimes just a little bit more
Less is more.
is
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, yeah.
Less is
Absolutely,
more. That's it.
absolutely. Um, so let's get into the crux of the conversation then. What were your earliest memories of Star Wars?
So I would have to say the toys come first,
Okay, yep, yep.
because my parents didn't like me watching those kind of movies for some reason. So
Okay.
I I would get to watch it when it finally got a TV release. And I think not Return of the Jedi, excuse me, Star Wars got put on TV at New Hope a few times before Empire ever made it. And I
Yeah,
think when I finally got to see Return of the Jedi was probably in the later 80s, when it finally come to VHS. So,
yeah,
uh, the story and everything, I didn't exactly understand all the bits and parts that we
yeah,
get deep into now. Like, I mean, just for the instance of Luke being Vader's son and all that kind of stuff, I was just blown away by C3PO, Darth Vader, the ship, stormtroopers. I mean, I even remember as a kid, we would sort of argue that a stormtrooper was a robot or a human. We didn't really know at the time.
no, that's true. That is true. Yeah, yeah.
uh but the toys was first. And I had my aunt, somebody actually showed a picture of somebody's card back that showed where they had checked off the figures, and my
Okay.
aunt did that for me. She had a card back in her purse,
Oh
and every
wow.
time she'd go to town, she would get me a figure or two and mark them off. And when I'd come see her, I got those figures. So she's the one who
Wow.
really pushed Star Wars on me. And then I don't exactly know which year. I wish I could have found the pictures because I would have shown them. But I got like the Cloud Car, uh, Bespin Cloud Car, the Hoth battle set.
Yeah,
Uh,
that must have been around that must have probably been around the 80s then. 80s,
yeah.
late 80s, mid
What?
81. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember. It might have not been the same one, but I got a Y wing and a Tie Fighter. I think that was, and then I got one of the mini rigs. I can't remember. I got two of them. I can't remember
Yeah,
which by name. But I had those, and I mean, I had all sorts of stuff. My aunts would spoil me rotten. I was probably a spoiled kid, even though my mom and dad held out a little bit. My aunts and them took up for that part. So
that is awesome.
I wish the movies meant as much to me as a lot of people did. I don't have those memories of going to the theater to see them until I
Yeah.
became uh, an older teenager or a young adult, going to see the special edition and everything for myself in theaters.
So you had the toys, and it was pretty much like myself. Um, I had the toys first, so it would have been around. It would have been 1980 when The Empire Strikes Back came out. So I remember getting the X-wing and Vader's Tie Fighter, and I was like, yeah, wow, brilliant, okay, great. Didn't really sort of like pay too much attention to it. I played with them, wasn't overly 100% sure what they were from and stuff like that. And then I saw Star Wars on the TV for the first time, and seeing those wings go up into their position, I was like, and the noise I made is,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh wow, and I was just like, wow, wow. And then it gave me a newfound love for those toys, and then after that, that was it. I was hooked, and yeah, it was just that memory of watching it on the TV, and that it was just incredible. It really was, and and it's a shame because I don't think kids kind of get that type of feeling anymore with Star Wars, just because there's so much other stuff out there. I mean, when you first saw Star Wars, actually got around to seeing it, what were your thoughts?
Oh, when I finally got into it, I was into Star Wars much more before I got into Star Trek. I
Yeah,
remember Star Trek 6 was something that my best friend finally got me to go to the theater and see, and I fell in love with Star Trek. But it was always Star Wars up to then, and we'd
yeah,
fuss and fight about this, that, and the other. And uh, but yeah, it started making sense to me. And then when we got to the not what 97 for the special edition,
yeah,
that's when you started. I think that was our first round of uh, arguments about Star Wars because of the fact of what was going on with the special effects and everything, and
yeah,
it's like, wow,
yeah,
this, that, and the other. So I mean, it was just talk about how awesome Star Wars was with the first three before anything else come out. That's all. You just built the hype on that, and then like you said, when you would see it on TV, I could remember you'd go to school the next day, and that was what
talk about
everybody
it.
was talking about. It's like, wow, did you see that? Blah, 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 blah,
Yeah, yeah,
And I mean, I loved it. I lived for those times. I remember it so well. I'd be laying on the floor with my hands under my chin, watching, kicking my feet, probably just enjoying every bit of it. Now,
yeah.
A New Hope, one thing A New Hope did do to me at the end of it was the trench run. As a kid, that seemed like that was the longest scene in the world. It's just like,
Yeah.
blow the thing up already,
Yeah,
So,
well, it's suspense, isn't it? They got, suspense. Yeah. But again, it was just how they did that. When you look deep into it and how they did that trench run, it was like table tennis tables, and they, like you said, they just got all different model kits and just built it all together.
yeah.
That is incredible to come up with something like that, and then they did all the camera work and stuff. And when you look deep into it, you just realize how much time, love, and effort went into that movie. I mean, and look, even the guys that were making the film weren't expecting anything to come of it. They
No,
weren't. And then when they got people watched it, and the reviews come out, and everybody was craving for it, and it was just like, wow. I mean, I think even one of the guys said, who was it? Was it Joe Johnston? He was like, someone come out and said, "Oh, can I have your autograph?" He goes, "No, no, no, I'm just, no, 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 we want your autograph." So he's like, "Well, if someone wants my autograph, then we know we've made a great film." And I think another guy, was it John Dykstra, said, who's made this? Who made this? That Star Destroyer coming across the screen with the
uh,
music, and it was just, do you know, I didn't see Star Wars at the theater because I was too young, but oh man, I would have loved to have been there. I would have loved to have seen
oh
that.
yeah, I would. I would like to have been like 19 or 20 and have the
Yeah,
fascination with sci-fi that I have, and just have what we would have had up to that point and then see that. and my head would have probably just blew up right there in the
Yeah,
theater
yeah, yeah.
because
Insane.
it's a layer of so many things. I mean, you said John Dykstra. It's that man come up with so many different camera thing
Yeah,
effects and everything for that kind of stuff just through Star Wars alone.
yeah,
And even though it took George Lucas coming in and give them a swift kick in the butt because they hadn't done much for their part other
yeah,
than
yeah.
a few models. Uh, I mean, just the whole thing, how Star Wars came into our life, and to find out that George Lucas's wife at that last moment when he was tired of trying to edit the film
He
together,
come in and edited it. Did yeah, yeah.
he did it, and it went through so many hands down to the wire, and for something that was so stressful to that man, and I know it had to have been,
Yeah.
he should have been on cloud nine, seeing what it did to the world and how it changed the world.
Do you think he was deep down? Do you think he was? I mean, because I don't even think he expected it. I mean, crikey, no one was interested in buying the toys. No one was interested in doing the toy line. It was only Kenner that took a chance, and they were like, well, it was not much out there at all, was there really? And then it was like, boom! It's just this film's just taken the world by storm, and they're like, oh god damn it! We've not got anything ready for this. So but then when the figures did come out, it was just like, wow, the toys. You had everything. It was just such a great time. And then you think that's it. Star Wars is it. What's going to happen? Is there going to be anything else? And then they do Empire Strikes Back. What a film!
So and it's interesting because George Lucas said you can have so many rights to the movie, but I want 100% of the rights to the toys.
Yeah,
This man, I'll have to, for him to want to take a bet like that, I have to say he knew he was fixing to change the world. He had to know because he took some incredible risk,
yeah,
especially saying, I'll take 100% of the toys, but we'll share part of my movie franchise. I
yeah,
think that's how
yeah.
it worked. Don't quote me, but I think it did.
Well, he he
Uh,
he didn't want anybody to change his movie, did he? He didn't want people to tell
uh,
him that's got to go. You got to add this. You got to do that. He didn't want that. So, and I think what he also did was he put in the rights to the sequels as well. He wanted to do the sequels. If it
yeah.
was a success, he wanted to do the sequels. So, and then that's what he did. But do you, I mean, okay, yeah, you say he knows that he wanted to change the way movies were made and stuff like that, and he knew it was going to, or he had an idea. But do you think that he was going to be? Did you? I can't even get my bloody question out. Do you think that he thought it would have been a success?
I think so to an extent, but
Really? Wow.
I don't think it was. He put the right people around him. I
Yeah.
think he knew that he was not the only visionary of Star Wars. He was the visionary of the story. But
Yeah.
then you had John Dykstra and everybody, and
Bill Tippett.
yeah, Tippett and them and ILM. They were
Yeah.
your visionaries that brought a whole different way of bringing something to the screen. He had a story that was out there that nobody could believe in. The actors, they just, as I've seen you in some of your uh, past episodes, we talk about acting, but even with Carrie Fisher and all, I mean, even uh, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Alec Guinness,
Alec Guinness.
they were like, what is this and what is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
What are we doing? This is crazy. But even with that doubt in their head, they acted the hell out of it, and they made themselves believe it, and
Yeah.
we believed it. I mean,
Well,
you,
that's the thing, isn't it? It's the dialogue was fairly cheesy in parts, in a lot of parts with Star Wars.
you want
But
somebody get this walking rug out of my way?
yeah, but the way she delivered that line, she said it with such authority and such
Yeah,
belief that
but
it
it was a
worked.
rug.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And it's the same with Luke as well. I mean, Mark Hamill always says that there was a certain line that he did in the read through, not the read through, in an audition, and he says, "What is this?" And it was the weirdest of lines, and it was just like, do you know the line? I mean, I can't remember what he said, something about they're expecting a full ground assault and stuff like that, or blah blah blah. But the way he said that, it got him the part because he said it with sincerity. He said it like he meant it, and he believed what he was saying. And I think that goes a long way because, like you say, it's those actors that you had people like Peter Cushing, Sir Alec Guinness. They were the elder statesmen, so we say,
Yes.
and they brought uh, um, some belief to it because they sort of like their acting skills and they were experienced and stuff like that. They believed in what they were doing, even that they might not have done. They said those lines with such belief and conviction that we bought it as an audience, and it was the same with everybody else. It's just incredible.
Yeah, and I don't, and that is a type of acting. I'm not going to say we don't have 100% have it today, but I don't think we have it in the quantity that we had it back in those days.
Yeah,
And with the English actors that was in it, with Alec Guinness and Peter Cushing, I mean, they these were Shakespearean play. I mean, people that did Shakespearean plays and everything.
yeah,
We don't have people that have that background like that anymore. They
no,
and then they played it so well, and
yeah,
they're some of the most. I mean, Obi-Wan Kenobi, as much as he lied to us and everything through the original trilogy, we loved that man. He was our father taking care of us, trying to take care
yeah,
of
yeah.
Luke. We felt like he was trying to take care of us
Mm.
until he found out he lied to us, and then was like, ooh.
I mean, you say about acting and stuff like that. I felt Mark Hamill was just absolutely incredible on that set of Dagobah with
Yes.
Yoda. I mean, because again, that could have gone so wrong if Yoda hadn't worked. But the skilled puppetry of oh
Frank
crikey,
Oz.
Frank
Yeah.
Oz, and the belief that Mark Hamill had in the part that he was playing, it made Yoda. I mean, I don't see a puppet when I see Yoda. That's the stupid thing. I don't see a puppet when I see Yoda. It's just incredible how they brought that character to life. And I think Mark Hamill's got to take a lot of credit for that because it could have gone so wrong.
Yeah. And it's taken me a long time, but people say, what is your favorite movie out of the first three? And I always would say Return of the Jedi. But
Yeah,
as an adult, I have grown to understand why everybody says Empire
yeah,
over all of them, because Empire was a very dark, very
it was. Yeah,
it took on a lot of big things. Don't get me wrong, Return of the Jedi was great, but and I'm not discounting the Ewoks for nothing. I really am not.
yeah.
But it did turn it back to a childish content to bring kids back into it, I guess. And
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
I mean, because we all know it was supposed to have been Wookiees, but you can't find a bunch of Peter Mayhews walking around
No.
doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't say it wasn't budget because George Lucas didn't had more money than he knew what to do with. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
But I look for as much as stick as the Ewoks got. I don't mind them. Yes, there were a few comedic bits in there, especially with Wicket and stuff like that. But I think you can forgive that. I think overall the story was very well told. It
yeah,
come across very well, and I I think in all honesty, in my opinion, what Return of the Jedi missed was Gary Kurtz. I think
yes,
I mean, some people say it was their favorite film. I don't have a problem with that. I don't hate it. I love the original trilogy, and Return of the Jedi was fantastic. The speeder bike scenes, absolutely incredible how they've done that. The Jabba the Hutt scene, again, puppetry at its very best.
yes,
You look at him, you don't think of a puppet. He's got people inside him working him and stuff like that. Just absolutely incredible. And the Rancor, again, another fantastic beast. The sail barge, a beautiful set, but I think it did miss an element of Gary Kurtz, and that was down to, again, I think artistic differences with himself and George Lucas. And George Lucas being George Lucas, it was his story. He knew what he wanted. He was very tunnel vision with it. And then Gary Kurtz was, ta-da, which was a shame.
yeah. I would. I mean, I know a lot of us would do anything to see what that would have looked like
Yeah,
today. Just like, what would you have changed? How would you have gone with it? The what if,
Yeah.
what is your what if scenario of this? It would have been awesome to see that. But yeah,
I think Harrison Ford, and I think even Lawrence Kasdan said as well at the time, someone had to die early on in the movie, and that person would have been Han Solo.
yes,
Because I think how we all know that Harrison Ford didn't sign up for a third movie. He wasn't interested. He didn't want to do it. But and Lawrence Kasdan said if that was the case, then it would have left everybody on the edge of the seats because you're thinking, oh God, a major player has died early in the movie. Who's going to be next? It could be Luke, it could be Leia, it could be Chewie, and it would have. I don't know. I don't know. It is a big what if, isn't it? If that would have happened.
yeah. I don't think we were ready for George R. Martin writing in that time. So
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
got to that later on, but no, that would have been hard. I mean,
I
from
would have been devastated. I would have been absolutely gutted. But you would have been.
because Empire, when 3PO got blasted to pieces, I love
Yeah,
I love Goldenrod, and I was scared to death. I just lost him. But then seeing Chewie fiddle with him and bring him back to life, hey.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But and Harrison, as you grew up and understood the story and what was going on, I mean, in that moment, that would have just been terrible to end it right there. Him
yeah.
listen to Leia say "I love you" and say "I know," and then that's it.
Again, that was improvised. That was improvised. That wasn't even in
Yes,
the script, and they,
and one of the
Urban
best
Kershner.
lines delivered ever.
Yeah, yeah,
Best
yeah,
love lines ever delivered, as I
yeah.
know.
It doesn't work. You try saying that to your partner. You get a look, and it's not quite as good as it seemed on the movie for sure. So, Return of the Jedi come to the end. It all come out about um,
85,
Luke.
485.
Yeah, Luke being like Vader's son and stuff like that, and then Vader's redemption. We found out that Luke had a sister or a twin, which was Leia. So after Return of the Jedi, did you feel movie wise that was it as far as Star Wars was concerned? When we had the books, we had the expanded universe, but as far as movies were concerned, did you think that was it?
At the time, yeah, I
Yeah,
did, and I was not connected enough with the fandom, I guess, to know that the books. Well, I ain't gonna lie, reading was the least favorite thing in the world for me. So, reading a book was really gonna be a far stretch for me. So,
yeah,
in the comics, I didn't get into comics so much. Uh, but yeah, I sort of thought it was over and done with, and it was sad. I mean, I remember as far as eighth grade for me, I went into a what was called a KB Toys. I guess where toys from Toys R Us or somewhere would
yeah.
filter out to, and they still had Return of the Jedi toys from the 2 packs that you see that are just
Okay,
stapled
yeah,
on the thing. And
yeah.
but I remember I bought a Jabba the Hutt playset in the box, and
Wow.
I mean seventh or eighth grade, something like that, and it's like I never had this. I wanted it, and it sort at that time it sort of revitalized my interest. I know eighth grader buying a toy, but I did. Uh,
Well, we're grown men and we still buy them, so you
yes,
were before your time. You were before your time. Yeah,
yes, but those things come and went, and I just felt that that was over. I mean, we had GI Joe was a big thing for me
yeah.
because of the vehicles and the toys that they had, and then He-Man a little bit. Sixth grade was Voltron for me. Uh, Actually, my other half, he asked why did I have this shiny silver key with the thing on it. I was like, that's a Voltron key. That starts the lines up.
Mm,
I was like, we would take these out to the playground as kids, and we'd say, I'm Keith, I'm Lance, I'm Pidge, I'm Hunk, I'm Princess Aurora, whatever, because you had a key on you. So
yeah,
we went through things because Star Wars captured our imagination to the point that we were ready for the next best thing,
yeah,
and we were given things mediocrity. but we got some things and we went on with it. So
So, what was your thoughts then, or what was your expectations when the prequel trilogy was announced that they were going to be doing another three movies?
so it's funny you say bring it up. I I was working at Walmart at the time in overnight receiving, and I had made friends that were big Star Wars nerds.
Yeah,
So we had all committed that we were going to go by the get in line and be the first to see it. We were excited. I mean, before that, like 97, they did the special edition. We all went
that's
and
it.
saw
Yeah.
that and we enjoyed that. So we knew that we would go see this Phantom Menace thing. We couldn't wait. So I was excited. I really was, because I was like, wow,
Mm,
who knew we were going to see new Star Wars content beyond the special edition? Who knew
yeah.
we were going to get here and it's coming? So we were elated.
I mean, were your expectations exceeded? I mean, or was your expectations too high and you come out feeling a little bit flat?
I probably at the time I was content with what we saw. I probably
Yeah.
was. But
Is that across just the Is that just across Phantom Menace, or is that you know?
just Phantom Menace. And
Yeah,
after you see the next one, it's like, oh well, this is better. And then you see Revenge of the Sith. And I was like, well, this is the best of all of them. But it was it's got to where now we know that we're fixing to have to go through an origin story for a first season or a first movie, and that's not going to be the best. An origin story is really hard to come off and be successful with.
yeah, yeah,
uh but at the time, I didn't care. I mean, we were getting to see where Anakin come from. We saw this dual lightsaber wielding Sith. We saw the beginnings of of the Emperor. I mean, it was
yeah,
wow. It was a lot to take in. I
yeah,
mean, overnight receiving, when a new case of Star Wars would come in, we would have it opened up and look and see what was in it before it made it out to the sales floor, if it made it out to the sales floor, and that even re-sparked that part of wanting to collect again.
yeah. Oh no, cool, cool. I mean, so when I first saw, well, talk about the prequels in general. It was it was different. It wasn't like the Star Wars that I'd grown up on, but that was okay. It was all right. And it was only until after I'd watched it a few times, back to back, that okay, the story's there, and it's about telling the story, and
Yeah.
it's a political story within the prequels for sure. But you know what? That was okay because it was a good story. It was the story of I mean, I can look back now and really look back at Palpatine and say, wow, what a player he was. He just manipulated everything. And I keep saying it every week when we talk about this, but he was incredible. And you go deep into it and stuff like that. And I just think it was so clever how he was written, that character. He did manipulate absolutely everything. And I thought, to be honest, when I first saw the Revenge of the Sith, that Anakin succumbed far too easily. But then when I think back, I don't think he did. I think it was a progression of over the three movies.
It was. So, talking about not wanting to read books. I read the Revenge of the Sith book before I went and saw the movie.
Yeah.
And I will actually say I felt a little let down by Christian Haydenson's acting toward the scene where Palpatine comes out to him as the Sith,
Yeah.
because the book lets you know how much that had become a father-son relationship between Palpatine and Anakin. And as much as he loved Obi-Wan Kenobi, he loved Palpatine more. And
Yeah.
then to hear the one thing that you didn't want to hear from somebody you respected and admired so much come out of their mouth. I mean, I was in tears in the book because I could just feel the anguish that I knew that Anakin was going to go through, and I didn't see that on the screen exactly the way I wanted to. I mean, I
Yeah.
want to see him sobbing and just ready to take him down. And
Yeah.
then he goes and goes up to Mace Windu and he goes, "Palpatine's the Sith we're looking for." Just
Yeah.
look cold, straight face. He
Do you
should have.
think that was down to do you think that was down to George's directing then? Because, you know, like we say, George wasn't the greatest of directors, and so the acting did come across as a little bit wooden, and it's always different when you read a book to when you
Absolutely, yeah.
see it on screen, isn't it? Because you can feel the emotion, or you can picture the emotion they're going through. Then when you watch it in real time, you think that's not how I, like you said, it's not how you
No. And,
envisaged it. Good God.
and I know Hayden Christensen's a good actor. He
Yeah.
is. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it does fall to George Lucas's fault on how that was portrayed,
Yeah.
because let's face it, everybody you hear talk about George Lucas, he seems to be sort of emotionalist. So,
Yeah.
there's no crying in space. Like he says, well, there's oxygen in space when I want there to be oxygen in space. So
Yeah.
I I just yeah, I think he might have let us down, because I think Hayden could have delivered that the right way, but I think he
Yeah.
didn't have the direction to do so.
Mm. And we have to get we are talking Star Wars. So again, episode 3, Revenge of the Sith finishes. So you got episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Star Wars is done. Lucasfilm, or George Lucas decides he's going to sell Lucasfilm. Disney buy it. Again, we were told that there's going to be another trilogy coming up. So again, what were your thoughts on that?
I didn't really know how to think. Well, I will. I had a high expectations for it, because I thought we were going to get to see the reunion of Luke, Leia, Han, 3PO, and Chewbacca, and all
Yeah.
of. I
Yeah.
thought that was going to happen in a way that what we know now versus what we didn't know then. I just thought we were going to see a family reunion on screen and see us go beyond, where we had been. And that's what I
Yeah.
was looking forward to. And then, of course, it turned out to be different. And
Yeah.
the first one, even though it let me down on the reunion part, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I did. I knew that we needed to bring fresh blood in it, because
Yeah. Well, you have to. You
everybody's
have to. Yeah.
we didn't have everybody we needed to uh, be able to deliver the stuff that we did. But then we got into the second one, and there was too much that had never happened in Star Wars before that I was not happy with. From I think, as you say, the Mary Poppins scene with Leia floating from
Yeah.
space back
Yeah.
into the ship.
I just want to mention that I did have a comment on last week's video, uh, saying that Mary Poppins wasn't the first time they'd done that in Star Wars. There was an episode in the Clone Wars where Plo Koon and a few of the others were walking through space with their spacesuits and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So that, but I just want to point out, I wasn't saying it was the first time. I'm just saying I didn't like that scene.
No, I
That
didn't
wasn't very
either.
good.
Because he had a mask that he said he was going to be able to do it for a little bit, where she
Yeah.
didn't have nothing. She got knocked
Yeah.
unconscious. She
Yeah.
wakes up freezing, and she just like
Yeah.
just floats onto the ship. And then Luke doing the force projection and then dying after he did it. I was
Yeah. See, look, listen. I don't think they did any justice, or I think they did a massive disjustice to the legacy characters, Luke, Leia, and Han. And I
they did.
think it would have been a lot better, in my opinion, if they had killed Leia off in that scene. Luke, although he was distracted or detached from the Force, Ray could have gone to see him, and he could have retuned with the Force again, and he would have felt the presence of, what had happened to Leia and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he didn't. I mean, look, I mean, even in, when Han, where's Han? That was it. Nothing. Nothing. There was nothing else. And I just think it was such a wasted opportunity for these great characters that we'd grown up with for 40 odd years, that were being part of us for 40 odd years, and they were written in that way. And I know Mark Hamill, I don't know him personally, but I know that he was very opposed to it at the start.
Yeah.
That's not my Luke Skywalker. For some unknown reason, he has now turned around and said, I regret saying what I said. it was Ryan Johnson's Luke, and I thought he did a great job with him. No, don't talk shite, Mark. You didn't think that. You know,
Yeah.
come on. I just, I just cannot get my head around it. Characters like Ray, Poe, and Finn all had potential to be great characters. They could have been as great as Leia, Han, and Luke, but they weren't because the writing and the story let them down big time. That's not their fault. They're not
No.
responsible for that. They can only do what's written in front of them. But I don't think the writing and the disjointedness of the movies, I just thought was a shame. And I'm not saying that about all of Disney stuff because I know I get it in the neck as well. Oh, you don't like Disney. You're a Disney hater. I'm not. I love Disney. You know, I don't like all this stuff. But, you know, and when it comes to Star Wars, I think a lot of people have said within this as well, this series, there are different formulas for Star Wars, and it's a mixture of all those formulas, you know, that really ties the films together. I think it was missing a lot of those formulas. I mean, what did you think of
I
the
I
sequels?
do. I mean, because I was excited with uh J.J. Abrams coming into the fold at first.
Yeah,
I didn't know nothing about Ryan Johnson. And then we got J.J. Abrams back. I thought
yeah,
they would have come up with a story that would have spanned the three and
yeah,
made it more
yeah,
conjoined than it
yeah.
was. But to me, it was like it was almost three completely different stories. They didn't
It
really
was, it
mix
was.
with each other like their other trilogies. And I mean, I don't know who to fault, be it I mean Kathleen Kennedy, rightfully so, uh, or just Disney just wanting to hurry up and put Star Wars content out there
Well,
for.
there probably is that. There probably is an element of Disney wanting to rush the films out and make the money. Um, but I just think it's typical, so typical of, and I, you know, I'm not. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. So typical of this generation where everything is done just like that, just like that.
Yes,
There was no training for Ray. She knew it because she was a Palpatine. We didn't know that to start with, but there was no character development. There was no training for her. It was just instant. She knew it all. You know, she knew how to um what's it do the Jedi mind trick on. Do you know what I mean? How did she know how to do that?
yeah,
How? You know, she wasn't taught it.
mm-mm.
It,
It's
you know what I mean? It's
unless they would have come back in the third story with since we already have Palpatine, and just showing like he's in the background of her head all the way through it, teaching her how to do this, manipulate her to do
that
that.
would have been
But they didn't
feasible.
tell that
No, they
story
didn't. Yeah,
though.
yeah, that would have been
So
feasible because somehow he just come back. Great
yeah,
line, one of the greatest lines ever. Somehow he just come back. I've just noticed the time. We're coming up to the top of the hour.
yeah.
This conversation has flown, and I've still got like questions to ask you. So, what
Let's
is
do
it
it.
about Star Wars that really stood out for you?
It's just the fact that it captured my imagination. It
Yeah,
it fueled my imagination, and there were so many layers to it, like I said. But the imagination part, there was a part where I enjoyed the music more than anything. Uh, there's just so much of it. It just it how do you say it? It does something for all of it.
inspired you?
No, complements each other.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Everything
yeah,
about it complements each other. So,
yeah,
uh, but my imagination is what it really fueled for me and made it so much for me.
yeah. Cool. I mean, I think it did with a lot of us, especially when we had the toys as well that we could sort of like play with as well. And you go off and you do certain scenes and stuff like that. But then you go off and you do your own scenes and make
Yeah,
your own stories up. And I think probably in our minds, I can certainly think of so many different things that I come up with as a kid with my friend that would have made great stories and great movies. And I think every single one of us, and I think that is probably where the issue lies with fan expectation. And I think because we had Star Wars, which set the bar so high, everything needs to be that high at the original trilogy. And
yeah.
you know, it's not, which is a shame. Um, how important is Star Wars to you within the Star Wars? How important? How important is the story to you within the Star Wars universe?
I I would be wrong if I said it wasn't important. I mean, like I said, the story for the sequel trilogy was not conjoined in any way, and then it went outside of what we knew about Star Wars. I mean, it goes back to like Star Trek for me. After I learned to really get into Star Trek, and then when
Yeah,
I saw J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, I knew the timeline. I knew what was right, what was wrong. And when I come out of that movie, as much as a great movie it was, I walked out and I was upset. I was like, it just threw the timeline away.
yeah,
It went against everything. I mean, they come back to say it's a Kelvin timeline. I got you now, but they didn't let you know that then, and I was upset. So
yeah.
the story means a lot. I mean, and I think our storytelling to some degree is not what it needs to be.
It's certainly not. It's changed a lot, and I know that people have said, well, we need to change stuff. Well, not change Star Wars. We need to take Star Wars in a different direction. It can't all be about the Skywalker. I get that. I get that. You can take Star Wars off in any direction you want. It's a universe so vast that you can tell any story, right? That doesn't matter. Just make it a good story. Have a little bit of thought into it. Use the lore and the foundations that were already there, that have been cemented into place by George Lucas. It's not well, obviously it is difficult because they've not quite managed to do it. But then, but Disney haven't done bad things all the time. Rogue One was decent. Andor was decent.
Oh,
Mandalorian season 1 and 2 were decent. The Clone Wars, absolutely incredible. Season 7 of the Clone Wars, apart from the first 2 episodes, was fantastic. That Battle of Mandalore with Darth Maul and Ahsoka, and leading up to the events from their perspective of Order 66, and you know, uh, storytelling at its best. They can do it in animated. Why couldn't they do
yeah.
it in live action?
Well, so you said a lot of things right there. For one, Rogue One,
Yeah,
we fell in love with those characters, and every one of those characters got taken away from us at the end.
yeah,
That was heartbreaking, but it was such an amazing story.
yeah,
Uh, the animation, the Clone Wars, I could not. So art is one of my things, and I could not respect the animation style that they were using at the time. I was like,
yeah,
this is trash. What is this? But then I gave it a chance, and it is such amazing storytelling that accentuated the prequel trilogy, and I loved it. Gary
yeah.
Moore, I cannot get to completely watch it at all right now. He doesn't understand the love of it right now, but
Sorry, hang on a minute. Can you say that again? Gary Moore hasn't seen the Clone Wars.
he has not seen all the Clone Wars, and he has not seen all of it
Gary Moore, son, come on, you're letting us down, boy. Come on, boy. Wow. Wow, Gary Moore.
but but Rogue One was done right.
Yeah,
Solo, the only I'm not gonna say I dislike Solo. It was a little funny and cheeky, but
yeah,
it did. I know that there were some backstories that was out there for us to see that George Lucas had said about how Han Solo met
Chewy.
Chewie and by being a captive of the Imperial Army, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
I mean, it was totally a little different than I thought it would be, but but it come to be true. But the robot for Lando and all that,
yeah.
that
Don't go there. Don't go there. Don't go there.
but it was entertaining, and we saw how he got
Yeah,
the Millennium Falcon. It went from being a nice, sleek ship to a beat up piece of hunk of junk. So
yeah,
thanks,
yeah.
Solo.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the story's important. It's super important.
Yeah, yeah. It really is, and yeah, it's the thing that draws people in. You can have all the CGI and the special effects in the world. I mean, that just is a bonus. What you need is the foundations and the storyline that's set there. And I just, and it's not just Star Wars, it's the same with any film or TV
Yeah.
series. It's got to revolve around a good story because that's what brings people in. I mean, I'll use, for example, just recently, I've watched The Penguin, absolutely blown away by it. I just thought it was insanely good, very well done. And
You just
most
can't get
importantly,
away
it was
from
a
the
great story.
core of the story. Don't go so far out that it becomes
Yeah,
delusional. You got that storyline, stick to it, but we know there's a lot of stories to be told in
Yeah,
between. And I
yeah,
mean, Clone Wars has done it, Penguin has done it,
yeah,
uh, this Dune Prophecies is doing it for Dune,
yeah.
Lord of the Rings, and all that other stuff. The
It's
it's
about getting people in that know the franchise. You know,
yes,
that helps. You know, it's don't get people in that don't know it
yeah. Don't
because
slap it in the face and say
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
better.
it's yeah. Um, how important do you think the older generation of Star Wars fans are to the Star Wars franchise?
I think we are very important to it, but we got to understand that we're responsible for bringing on a newer generation, and we got
Yeah,
to be careful how we approach how we do things. And even if we dislike it, have a strong dislike about it, let's just be careful and just remember that somebody's watching our actions and go, well, why should I want to watch Star Wars if you don't even like this? So we got to be careful with how we approach it, and just have a we got to be like Master Yoda. We got to be smarter than all these other people.
I get that, and I think you're absolutely spot on. We do need a new generation of Star Wars fans, and we need to entice in the younger generation. It's really difficult this day and age to do that, I feel, because like I said, what you said it at the beginning, Star Wars doesn't have that impact on the today's generation as what it did with our generation, simply because there's so many other things out there. The attention span for the younger generation isn't there for Star Wars like it was with us. Nothing wrong with that at all. So, how do you capture the imagination of a younger generation? Because they've seen it all. They've seen it all. From
I,
what we had as kids to what they have as kids now, they've seen it all. You know, you don't see kids really buying the Star Wars toys anymore and playing with them like we did. I mean,
I,
you know, we just don't see that. I mean, if it happens, great, but I don't think it does as much as what it used to. So, how do we get the kids involved? How do we get a new generation of fans in?
so me not being a parent, I can't say this, but listen to some people that talk about sharing Star Wars with their kids as they grow up and bring it into their life from the beginning, fostering a relationship with Star Wars in that way. I think that's how we can help a lot of our youth get into it. I
Yeah,
mean, can you imagine seeing Star Wars for the first time again? I can't. We can't because we've seen it. We can't throw that away and go see
yeah.
it again. But if for a kid, hopefully, it would capture. You just see their eyes light up during that moment when that Star
Th
Destroyer
th
comes over
th
the scene.
there is that, but what I mean is if a kid's watching a movie with all the special effects, everything looks just absolutely fantastic, and then you see Star Wars now, I for me and a lot of other people, Star Wars is timeless, but the special effects aren't the special effects of today's movies, so they're gonna look at it and go, "Meh." Do you know what I mean? It's
It and for that, it might be an answer we might not like, Stu. It might be the fact that they may have to tell a story that is so far out there that we don't connect with it, but it might connect with the Star Wars universe in a way that it connects with a younger generation than us. And I don't know what that is. Because I'm not. I mean, we're the OGs.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, look, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. For myself, I knew of Star Trek. I knew of the original series. I knew of the Next Generation. I didn't watch it religiously. You know, I just watched it as and when. I went to go and see Generations. Obviously I'd seen all the rest of the movies, so I went to see Generations, and Generations was the reason for me getting into Star Trek properly. I watched because of Captain Kirk, because of what
right.
happened to him, and you think, wow, this is such an iconic character. I don't believe I can't, wow. So I went back and I watched every single episode of the original trilogy, the original Star Trek show. I then went and watched all of the episodes of the Next Generation, and I was like, wow. And the stories that were told in those series, which I was just like, wow. And I like Star Trek. I'm not going to lie, but Star Wars is first, then Star Trek, obviously. But and it's because I saw something new that I thought, well, I want to go back and watch this. So I'm hoping that that it could be one person out there, a youngster that's seen the Phantom Menace, not the Phantom Menace, the Force Awakens for the first time. He sees Han Solo. He sees him, taken, out by his son, and he dies. And he goes, I want to know more about Han Solo. And then goes back and
Yeah,
watches the original
true.
trilogy.
Yeah,
Even if it's one person, one kid, that would be great. But I
yes.
can't see it. I can't see it. Anyhow, how important are strong female characters within Star Wars?
I think they've always been there, Stu. I mean,
Yeah,
Leia was the first.
yeah,
We went from Leia to Queen Amidala
yeah,
to well, now Rey, but then we had Ahsoka in the Clone Wars.
yeah. Jen
I
Erso.
think, yeah, Jen Erso. I mean, they're always been there, and they've been an anchor to it. So we might actually need more male heroes more than we need the female leads, because they actually have always been the heroes of the story. So
Yeah.
uh I
And
mean,
look, the reason I ask these questions, Brad, is because you've had a lot of nonsense coming out of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, Leslie Headland. Oh, male toxic fans, they don't like strong female leads. Absolute nonsense. I can't. And do you know what? It still bugs me to this day that Kathleen Kennedy has come out and said that she was there. She was there for the original trilogy. She was there for the sequel, the prequels. What? Why? Why does she feel that? Just because it doesn't matter if there's a woman lead. I don't care. Make her a good character, write her a decent story, give her some character development, and then Bob's your uncle. It's not difficult. But to throw, I mean, look, Ray, again, nothing against Daisy Ridley. I thought she did a great job. And Ray as a character, I don't have a problem with her. But I thought her character development and her story arc was very weak compared to what we've seen in the past. Princess Leia, Amidala, Ahsoka, Jen Erso. Do you know what I mean? Those characters had great
yeah.
writing behind them. And I don't think they had that for, I mean, even Fennec Shand and Bo Katan and Ahsoka. They've all had great writing behind them. They've all got, do you know what I mean? I just think, it's a shame, but we're not opposed to strong female leads. Is that what you're saying?
No, and it's really the things I used to try to advocate for Kathleen Kennedy, and I actually talked to somebody from IOM when we were at ICCC
Oh,
earlier
wow.
this year,
Okay. Yeah,
and,
yeah. Cool.
and said that she has actually gone into Lucasfilm and taken out, made it a half and half staff of male and female. She's destroying the fabric of Lucasfilm that comes out to tell the story. So I think if she would go and Dave Filoni could get the reins, and Dave Filoni do what he has done with the Mandalorian, Andor, uh, and everything, maybe we can save Star Wars and make it what it was for us, for our youth, our generation today.
Yeah.
But but to come out and say that kind of stuff, you said it last week. You know, she can come out and say something about us being toxic to it, but uh, what's her name, Gina Carano?
Yeah, yeah. Gina Carano. Yeah.
Yeah, she can come out and say something. It's her own opinion and get fired for it. And she
Yeah.
played a great character.
A
So
strong female lead, which is what
yeah,
they want. I
yeah.
thought she was great, Gina
So
Carano. I
that
really
was a
did.
very
I love that character, Cara Dune.
hypocritical. That was a hypocritical move on Disney and Kathleen Kennedy's part, right there. To me.
Yeah, yeah. It's just insane. It really is. How important is it for Star Wars to be inclusive?
it's it. It's very important because we all need this place that we can go to get away. We need this place far, far, far away for us
Yeah,
all to be able to go. Uh, Now, does it mean that it has to come out in the storytelling? I mean, for me being an openly gay person, I don't wave my flag and throw it in your face. I'm not going to do that
Yeah,
because I respect everybody. But, we've already seen gay characters. Heck, the aliens on there, they might not even supposed to be together.
yeah,
It just needs to be open, but it doesn't need to be so much to the point that it's sick. Let's just have a good story. If something's going on in the background and it's just necessary that you got to put it there, it's one thing. But we can't we can't we can't let all this political nonsense that's in the world and this woke society ruin what is a fantasy and far, far away. Let's just keep it good, clean story with some heartache, some adventure, all sorts of stuff. But let's just keep it the way it is. There's nothing wrong with that. But
yeah.
if you got to add a few things, do it. But don't throw it in a way that it makes it
I
distasteful.
understand that, I don't know what I'm gonna say. I don't know what I was gonna
A
say.
man
It
of
was
few
there, and it's just
words.
kind of like, "What?" Well, I know I'm getting old, but my God. Um, I understand that you need to bring in a new demographic and stuff like that, and to be inclusive. I get that. I get that. I don't have an issue with that at all. But again, I have no idea where I'm going with that. So what I'll do is I'll move on. Unbelievable. Overall, what makes Star Wars great for you?
There's a lot of things that make Star Wars great for me, but just in the past few years, Stu, is people like you, Gary Moore, Tim, Brett, uh, people like you. That's what makes Star Wars so great to me. I've made a lot of great friends in the last 4 years because Star Wars bringing us together. It's a great story that we all have a common love for, and it's just nice to have people to share that experience with. I can have everything in the world Star Wars all around me, but if I don't have somebody to share the story and the love with, it's nothing.
Yeah,
And that's what makes it so awesome. I mean, it's like for you coming over next year later in the part of the year. I am
yeah.
looking forward to getting to see you.
Oh,
Getting
that's
to know
nice.
Gary Moore is awesome. Brett on Fett is an amazing person. I mean, them two, we are around each other every convention we can be. Uh, we got Mackenzie that's going to be on your Star Wars trivia, that he's going to finally come up and be a part of it.
Oh,
He's been
wow.
with us in
Cool.
things. It's the people. I mean, God, I mean, to sit and just nerd out about Star Wars, just like me and you'd have for the last hour and 15 minutes, I love it. I could do it all day long.
Do you know what? I'm kind of taken back by that because I was not expecting that as an answer. And I've got to say, yeah, you're absolutely spot on. The friendships that have been made because of Star Wars, and it's not just these last 4 years. It's been over a period of time. That the fan base and stuff like that, and that's what annoys me when the fan base is so divided. I hate that. I really do. And I know hate's a strong word, but I really do hate that. And the
We've
thing is,
got to learn to agree to disagree.
but
Or,
we
yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. But this day and age, it's very difficult to do that. But what again, I've said this before. No one wins if Star Wars fails. No one wants to see Star Wars fails. I don't want to see Star Wars fail. I just want decent characters with a well-written story. And I think Rums hit this on the head. It is a formula of all different types of things that make Star Wars great, as well as just like the fan base and the friendships that we've made. But in telling the story, and I think, and thinking about it, there have been a lot of elements of that formula missing over the last few years as far as Star Wars storytelling has
Yes.
is concerned. We've managed to get it back a little bit with the Mandalorian. We've managed to get it back a little bit with Andor. So yeah, there is hope. There is always hope that
Yes.
we can. you know, Star Wars. I mean, some people might think there's nothing wrong with Star Wars. Look, Star Wars was never broken. It is and always has been for everybody. Don't single out demographics and you know, stuff like that. We don't need that. It is for everybody. It always has been for everybody. Let's keep it that way. Let's not single people out. And that's again my opinion, but yeah, I could be wrong.
Well
Just
said,
could be wrong.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, on that note, Brett rather, bloody hell. No, Brad, I said it right the first
You
time.
said it right the first time.
Yeah, you've thrown me with that with your answer there. I've got to say this hour and so has just absolutely flown by. I've really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it too, Stu. Thank you for always having me on. I greatly
No,
appreciate
it's a pleasure, absolute pleasure. And I'm privileged and to be able to call you a friend.
it.
And
Same
it's
here,
true things
sir.
like this, you know, like the Star Wars quiz and Star Wars chats and stuff like that. It is great, and long may that continue. Um, for those of you who have watched and stayed to the end, thank you very much. Whether you've watched it or listened, really do appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, these are just our thoughts and opinions. It doesn't make them right or wrong, you know. So, like I say, please do not get butthurt if we say something that you disagree with. It's tough. We've said it, so there you go. But anyhow, that has been it for this episode. Brad, once again, it's been an absolute pleasure. Take care, stay safe, and we shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Bye.